Hi, everybody, and we are the Crippled Legion of Moohead Radio. Joining me is Michelle. My God, you had a surgical procedure, is that right?
Yeah, I had a couple of them, and I think, I had the scopes, and they didn't knock me out all the way. I even asked for more medication halfway through, and it still didn't knock me out. So I know that, I fought the tube in my throat, and then, my whole body just fought everything else, and so my back is, paralyzed. And then yesterday was Junior's birthday, so I had a house full of children, and I was doing things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. So now I can't move today. Awesome. So I've got 10 pillows and a heating pad behind me.
What's the name of the procedure that you had done? Now that I didn't want to talk about this on the air. We knew that, I knew that you were going in. We didn't publicize it on the show. What did they do to you?
So an exploratory laparotomy, peek around, which everything looks fine. They were looking for a tumor and stuff, which that was fine. And then I had an EGD and a colonoscopy and multiple biopsies, which it was kind of okay that I was awake in one sense, that I saw everything and I watched it. But I'm paying for it now that I wasn't asleep because, like I said, my whole body fought everything they did. But
why is your back acting up now? What was it that
I think just the pressure of everything, and then my body tensing against it, the surgical area from the spine surgery, it still gets really inflamed every now and then. And I thought it was just because it rained for a couple days here, and sometimes when the pressure drops, my body kind of aches. But I probably overdid it too yesterday, running around and lifting and moving and bending and all sorts of stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. So I'm paying for it. But I mean, I can't complain. I really can't, because much worse than I do, so it's whatever. But I'll go back on Friday, find out next Friday afternoon. Hopefully I'll be back home in time for the show next Friday, but I find out what the biopsy results are. They took a lot of biopsies, but I found out where all the bleeding's coming from finally, so that's...
I'm reading all of Ziffel's comments that he made having watched the archive of the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yep. He says all NFL teams should use analytics. Everyone understands that numbers don't replace talent. By the way, Pastor is a fine right tackle. Brilliant. Ricardo Lewis can't catch the ball and makes too many mistakes on special teams. Oh, he agrees with me on that. That's kind of nice. Let me see, what else did he say? He said, why are you still using a green screen if you're not going to use it? Well, because I'm lazy and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But believe me, there are reasons for that. And fuck you for asking. And for
what haven't you used that?
My green screen that I'm not using, that I'm not putting imposing backgrounds on the green screen, which I can do if I feel like doing it. But I have to kind of run this through another program that, what's it matter if it looks like I'm in the spaceship of love or not? What does it matter? I mean, still what I have to say is equally unimportant. And then Ziffels was ranking his best players of all time, NBA. Wilt Chamberlain 1, LeBron 2, Jordan 3, Jabbar 4, Bird 5, Magic then, and then Oscar Robertson. And that's how he broke it down. Wilt Chamberlain, number 1. Now, Wilt Chamberlain was the first truly great, prolific big man in the game. But no, he couldn't shoot free throws. He didn't have an outside shot. He was dominant athletically for a man his size, and they changed the rules of the game for him. Greatest big man of all time. But
Change the rules how?
LeBron's better. What? Oh, the 3-second lane rule was, first it was George Mikan, technically, who they changed the rule for. But Chamberlain took strength to a whole new level in his generation. He was 7'1 3/4. That's what he was listed as, but he had verticality and he was just a rock. He was just a strong guy. But I can understand a guy who averaged 50 points in a season, but it's kind of like the triple-double of Oscar Robertson, averaging a triple-double for a whole season. Those are great statistics, but LeBron destroys in every era he plays in, and he would destroy in the next 2 eras that will be played. That's my basis for this. But I don't know. Everyone's got an opinion, so that's...
What do you think about the article I saw the other day that LeBron said, if he plays for 10 more years, he has a chance to either play with his son or against him. Do you think he'll last that long? I don't think there's any way he stays in the league that long.
No, and I think that the only thing that's going to keep him in the league longer now is the 36 to 38 rule, the change that LeBron's representation has created. The over 36 rule, which was that you couldn't sign a 5-year contract, and that's what was hindering LeBron's circumstance, is the over 36 rule, that he would be unable to sign a 5-year at his age if he wanted to come back to the Cavaliers. His strategy was to do another 2-year and then be able to do a multi-year to end his career. He wouldn't be able to do that, but they just changed the rules in the collective bargaining agreement so that now the over 36 rule is the over 38 rule, meaning LeBron will be able to sign a 5-year deal. And it's going to bankrupt and cripple the Cavaliers. And I wouldn't even be 100% sure that it's going to be the Cavaliers, because LeBron will end up his career playing with D Wade somewhere, somehow. I don't know how this is all going to play out. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I honest to God believe that D Wade, Carmelo, and LeBron are all going to wind up on the same team. That's what my opinion is. Speaking of Carmelo, George Karl wrote a book, and it really would tend to prove that there's more than one cancer inside George Karl. What a nasty book. The excerpts that came out the other day, he starts pointing fingers at specific players, and the people that that came out first were Carmelo, who he says was basically more interested in himself and his publicity than anything else, and J.R. Smith, who he said was like a little child. And it was really just an insulting thing. And I'm sure that there is truth to this, okay? But why, the necessity is kind of like Christina Crawford, Mommy Dearest. I don't doubt that Joan Crawford was a bad mother, but if your life is to try to make money off of your mother's foibles or cruelty, then I really seriously wonder, it's like you got to move on. George Karl's had a lot of time in the league from the time he started with the Cavaliers and all the teams he's coached for. Why he would feel the need at this point in his life to write a book that just demonizes individual players. Very strange. And it's kind of, and he also makes reference to J.R. Smith's posse, another Phil Jacksonism. And this is that old crusty white man thing that this happens in professional sports. We talk about it in the NFL all the time. And George Karl, I think there comes a point where you're beyond useful. And I remember when the Cavaliers with Byron Scott, they wanted to bring George Karl here, and I was like, no. George Karl can no longer relate to the culture that's in the game. And I'm not saying that the culture in the game is all that healthy, but you got to bring in a new generation of guys like Tyronn Lue, 39-year-old guy who played with multiple NBA teams, who played with guys and was part of this culture and got to look at it and study it from within. Those are your future coaches. It's not the Popoviches who are hanging on by their fingernails. Great coach. But the old guard, look at the Heat, the worst record, and Pat Riley is just gone, and Phil Jackson is just gone. These people are dinosaurs, and it's a whole new game now. And I think people should get out of the road. What Bob Dylan say? Get out of the road if you can't lend a hand, because the times they are changing. And you may not like the way they're changing. You may not approve of it. But, I think the David Blatt to Tyronn Lue thing is an interesting study in the NBA of how, with the same basic pieces, one guy can get one thing and another guy can get another. And Blatt was a right-wing Israeli disciplinarian who could not handle LeBron James and who'd never played in the league, so LeBron didn't respect his chops. And every time he stood there and said, well, I was championship coach in Europe, it pushed him back one step further from LeBron. LeBron's like, rolling his eyes like, fuck, you just don't know what we do in this league. Tyronn Lue had the advantage of being inside the culture. And I think that what he's been able to get out of the Cavaliers is a direct result of a relatability and knowing how far you can push, what you can say, what you cannot say, and that you have the right to say it because you did it, kind of thing. That's where we're at in the NBA. The old guard's got to get out of the road because these old names that keep popping up, they don't know how to handle the younger players. And it's only getting worse. You got a guy like Boogie, Cousins down in Sacramento. I mean, this guy could be on the precipice of scoring a massive multi-year contract and, spitting his mouthpiece out at people. He's been a death trap for every coach who coached him. He's a poisonous person, uncontrollable person, but he's got this talent. And the Lakers are looking hard at him for a multi-year. And it's like, the question is, can Luke Walton coach Cousins? And I don't know. I don't know that Luke Walton's the guy. I don't know. Luke Walton's a good coach. I think he's done a nice job with the Lakers, but honest to God, I don't know who's
hyper emotional for sure.
Oh, I just don't see Boogie playing for any coach for very long. I don't know, but
I think that posse comment was like a purposeful dig, like just a little way of like there was absolutely no need to use that word again after all the controversy that it stirred up a few weeks ago, but to actually use that word again, I think it was a purposeful dig, and it just shows how archaic the
no. This book was written. Was all right.
I thought that was. I heard that quote just recently. I thought that was a new quote.
No.
Oh, my bad. I just heard it recently. I thought it was a brand new quote.
It is reflective.
Like a secondary.
It's a reflective of how generations look. I mean, it was like, you remember. I mean, I'm looking back, to the '60s, and I know what my parents thought about hippies. I know what their generation thought about the great unbathed masses who assembled at Woodstock. I remember I was alive then. And so, and I remember what the previous generation thought of pelvis swiveling Elvis and the mop top Beatles. And this is cultural changes and transformations, or to be very honest with you, what I, as a radio owner, thought of hip hop and rap. I grew up with top 40 radio, and suddenly, it's like stations are playing Cop Killer.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what top 40 is about to me. But, we opened up our minds and played, a lot of stuff that, to tell you the truth, and I wasn't an old fellow. In Flint, Michigan, when I got rolling in Flint, I was probably 34, 35 years of age. And that's not an old guy. And I consider myself very youthful in my outlook. But it was hard. It was hard coming to work and having these record guys coming in. And the lyrics that they were rapping were numbers that related to police codes for crimes that were committed. And it's like, and I got mothers crawling up my ass saying, why are you playing this shit to my kids? And it's like, we were caught in a cultural crossfire between the kids who listened, and we had to satisfy them, and their mothers who wouldn't let them listen if it was the wrong shit because they were white kids. And that's when we had the thing that were noted as wiggers, white, black kids. The white kids who wore their hat backwards and tried to do the poses and all that shit. We got cross-culturalized, and we got caught in the middle. It's like, we had to make a choice, and we gave up rap. Because the urban station in town could play rap 24 hours a day, and nobody gave two fucks, but all of our adult female audience was just hammering us for this shit, and we dumped it. And we actually made a lot more money doing that, but it was soul-searching, to say the least. So I know what it's like from a cultural perspective to look at these young players coming out of college getting handed millions and millions of dollars when they're 19, 20 years old, and they have absolutely no clue. And it's, I had an experience. I wanted to tell you about this. This was unbelievable. Yesterday, Mrs. Moon and I decided to go golfing. Probably a mistake, but I've gotten my trike back. It's motorized now.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I have ridden like 32 miles in 2 days. Okay. I mean, I'm like, but I'm pedaling. I'm not just coasting. I'm pedaling. And my leg's destroyed. I went out and tried to play tennis today and I couldn't make 5 minutes. I was dead. I mean, it's like, oh my God, my leg.
Jello.
It's worse than Jello. It's pain in the knee, but all the muscles surrounding it are, oh my God, it's just like. So yesterday, I wasn't going to ride in the afternoon because we were going to play golf. Went out to the golf course. Oh, it's wide open. They said nobody on the tee sheet, go out and play. Takes us an hour and 50 to 2 hours to play 9 holes. We said, fine, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Get back at 5. All is well. Turns dark very shortly after that.
Yeah.
We get out onto the course. We play the first 2 holes. Then all of a sudden, on the third hole, there are these people there, and they don't know how to play golf. I mean, I'm not a good golfer. Lisa's not a good golfer. Okay? Neither of us are good golfers. But we move along. If we fuck up and hit a ball where it cannot be found, we don't hover over it looking for a 50-cent ball forever. You know what I mean? It's like, right. Fucked up, it's gone. Move on. And I have rules that if I hit more strokes than 8 on a hole, I pick the ball up and I go to the next hole. I mean, you got to be considerate of the pace of play. So these people, it's like, what the fuck are they doing? And I mean, they're hitting the ball sideways. They're walking. They don't have a cart, so they're pushing a push cart and looking for balls. And it's like, so we said, fuck this. And so we skipped that hole. We come up on the next hole. There's 2 more seniors out there, and they've got umbrellas affixed to their golf bags. They don't have a cart either. They're walking, and they're standing underneath the umbrella chatting by the green.
Oh, no.
It's like they're having a fucking picnic. What the fuck is this? This is a goddamn private golf course. But then I said, so we'll skip this hole. So I skip 5 and 6 and go on to 7, right? We hit our drives on 7, and Lisa's stoked because she hits her best drive of the day, and I whack the drive, and I'm ready to go into the green on the second shot, man. I'm good. And I look, and there's this guy standing on the green. I said, another person? They said there was nobody on this course. What the fuck's going on here? Guy is standing there with a driver. That's the big club. On the green, swinging like a crazy person. I'm like, there's got to be something wrong, man. And so I drive, and I wait first to see, and he's not doing anything. He's not going anywhere. And there's something sitting beside him. Couldn't tell what it was. So I said to Lisa, I said, we don't have time for this shit, really. I said, I can get home and I can ride my bike. I don't have time to put up with this. So we picked up our balls, went around, and I said, what are you guys doing? Because I saw it was a girl with him. I said, what are you doing? I said, we're playing golf here. I said, we're trying to hit the ball into the green, and you were sitting here and you wouldn't move. The girl looks at me with this vacuous look and says, well, we're not really on the green. She was sitting on the fringe next to the green. I said, why are you sitting there? I said, if we'd have hit the ball, we'd have hit you. I said, and we don't do that. I mean, it's not safe for you to be sitting here. This is a golf course where people play golf. They don't move. At this point, it's like, I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't I talk to some people at the golf club and find out what in the fuck you're doing out here? And I got nasty with them. I said, you are fucking with the wrong person. I said, I don't know what your problem is. I said, get the fuck off the course. You don't belong here. They don't move. So I'm riding the cart. I said to Lisa, we just got to go back to the club and tell them we got interlopers on the course who aren't even supposed to be out there. So I'm driving and the guy's waving and 17, 18, 19 years old. And I said, we're the young generation and we've got nothing to say. And I had a George Carl moment. And I said to Lisa, it's been tough the last several weeks physically and sleep-wise for me. And I got angry. But, honest to God, if I was in reach of my club, I'd have hit him. I mean, that's how incensed I was. It's like, how can somebody not realize that sitting on the green of a private golf course with people coming in and playing is not getting in someone's way? How could somebody be so oblivious? And I guess the answer is we live in a generation of oblivious people. I got Tony the Calf starting up with me on Facebook. And he's like saying how great Trump is and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, fine. And he's putting things up on my timeline, about Trump and all this. Like, fine. He's saying, and I said to him, you got your job at Blue Cross Blue Shield in the Obama administration. You're going to lose it in the Trump administration. I said, because we're insured by BCBS. That's Blue Cross Blue Shield. And everyone knows that Obamacare is gone. Okay. Obamacare is not even an issue anymore because it will be repealed, or it will be restructured in such a way.
It needs to be restructured for sure.
And so it's not going to be what it was. Okay. My premiums and everybody's premium went up 30% in 1 year from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Trump was elected. It didn't matter to the insurance companies. They're going to hammer it up your ass and break it off anyway. That's what they do for a living. I said to Tony, the problem isn't Obamacare. It's the insurance companies, because they don't care. The only outcome that matters to them is that they raise your premiums and cover less. And I'm sure you've run into the same thing with all these procedures you're going through. It's like, it's amazing the shit that they try to get out of. They will write you letters.
They sent me to a GI. They gave me a GI consult, right? So they put in for it so that I could be sent to a GI clinic. And they wouldn't do it at the hospital because they were so booked with active duty that they couldn't see me within 30 days. So they sent me out of network. That was 3.5 months ago. I still have not been approved to see a GI specialist. Even though I'm bleeding internally. That's the military healthcare. It's worse than Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. It's worse than that. It's terrible. My mother is a federal contractor, and her premiums now for just her and my father, it's almost $5,000 a month.
I mean, it's like, and what's amazing to me? It's just like looking at the 19-year-old kid sitting on the green who was oblivious. It's like, you may not have liked Obamacare. You may not have liked Obama and his wife. I understand all of that. Just like you don't like Hillary, I understand that. But there were millions of people in this country who signed up for Obamacare because they were uninsured, because the fucking companies don't insure common people. You couldn't get coverage from these companies. They have literally phased people out. And the reason that this goofy government program, which was so ridiculous, like the online signups, millions of people signed up for it online because they were completely unrepresented. They had no health care whatsoever. So, I mean, you can say that, well, God, that was a lousy solution. You can say that. But it still doesn't address the millions of people who don't have health care in our country. I mean, and that's what the problem is. And I said to Tony, you're going to lose your job. They're going to fire you. They're going to lay you off because the increase in premiums comes first, and then the last hired, first fired. They're going to make their little employee cuts after the holiday season, and you're going to be the first fucking casualty. That's the way it works. His response to me was, well, you know how big business goes. You should know that better than anybody. I said, so you elected the biggest corporatist of all, and you've sold out your soul, and now the corporation is going to fuck you up your fat little ass. That's oblivious. The kind of change that we need in this country isn't the kind of change that a guy who ran for president could say he grabbed women by the pussy. That's not the kind of change that he can say flamboyant things or tweet at 3 a.m. That's not the kind of change we need. We need change that replaces people in Congress and that regulates our health insurance, so that they can't keep raising the price because it's unaffordable for more and more people. It's unacceptable.
They also exempted themselves from the whole thing when it came out. They exempted themselves from those conditions because they knew how shady they were.
I mean, it's just, to be the kind of change that we need. It's so far beyond what could possibly happen at this point. And, you know, it is the greatest methodology in the world to conquer people, to divide and to conquer. It is
Hospital
so
systems are an issue too, because, you know, when I worked at Cleveland Clinic or university, they were non-for-profit hospitals. Whether you had insurance or not didn't matter. You were going to get treated. And if you couldn't pay for it, it was eaten up by the taxpayers. The profit hospitals, the privately owned hospitals are just terrible. Those are the ones where the nurses can strike, and I think that's the worst kind of nurse on the planet. If you're willing to strike for your own benefit instead of taking care of your patients, you're in the wrong field. So a lot of it has to do not only with the insurance companies, but with the hospital systems and Big Pharma. They're all in bed together, and it's all just an atrocity.
Amsterdam, feel free to call in if you want to. I'm looking at the chat room. Another blank generation, yeah. Ziffel said. It's you know, and Ziffels can call in too if he wants to. Ziffels is saying insurance banks and Big Pharma are always the problem, and they always blame it on entitlements. People are so stupid. 40 plus working people who couldn't afford health insurance, or 40 plus million who couldn't afford health insurance. That's right. And they would blame, and that's what Tony's whole thing was about. I should read this to you so you can see what a blank the definition of a blank generation. And you know something, when Tony loses his job, and he will lose his job, and it's not that I want him to, all right? It is an inevitability that he will, all right? Here's what he says. I got a job because my employer realized what a criminal pile of bullshit that healthcare mandate your buddy pushed was. A pile of shit it was, and refused to offer anything related to it. I mean, they didn't offer anything before that, you dumb fucker. Why don't you sit around on a green with a driver and swing it? You're stupid. You're hopelessly stupid if you don't understand that you were uninsurable before Obama because of price increases. You couldn't afford it. It's not that... oh, God. I mean, it's just... somebody help these people.
Debating you.
It's just like discussing things with morons. It just gets so old. It's like, God almighty. It's like, and it isn't a Trump-Hillary thing. And it's not a Republican-Democrat thing. You know, the health insurance thing has been going on for decades and decades and decades. They hated Hillary back in the 90s. They wanted to change the health care. You got to turn your speaker down there, Amsterdam.
It is, my friend.
Well, thank you. Good. Now we have two people to talk sports. And that's what I want to do now, because I haven't said a fucking thing about sports 30 minutes into the show.
Oh, damn.
Edwin Encarnacion.
See.
We got him. All right, so you're not impressed, Michelle. Let's hear your take.
I don't know. I'm not going to get excited because anything is possible. You know what I mean? Anytime anybody signs big money, doesn't really mean anything. I'll be happy to get rid of Napoli. He wasn't doing anything. Not really a fan of wasting a shit ton of money on that guy. He's old. He's done. As you told me that they were afraid of him in the locker room, right? Wasn't it Napoli you said that about?
They said that people either really took to him, and of course, you know, Ramirez was the ultimate example, always wanting to play cards with Napoli, and others who were just kind of intimidated by him. The information I got was that he was somewhat polarizing in that regard.
I think he was like teacher's pet. You know what I mean? I think he came in because of Francona, and I think they probably had kind of an intimidating bond, so I can see that. And as far as I'm concerned, he choked when he had the chance to be a hero, and you know, he was either hit or miss. It was either he was like the Giambi 2.0. It was either he was going to come in and hit a bomb when he needed to, or he was going to strike out every time he was up. And you know, it was all or nothing with him. So I'm not really too sad about seeing him go. Encarnacion did nothing against us in the championship series, so it's whatever. Yeah, he's a great home run hitter. Got a lot of power. He's, you know, crazy at the plate. Happy to see somebody at first base that can handle it. Happy to not see Santana out there, but Am I going to cream my panties over? I am. I mean, really, I can't stand Santana. I think
half and half, because Encarnacion basically played, I believe they said 75 games as a designated hitter and 85 games or whatever was left as a first baseman. So he was platooned in essence by the Blue Jays as well. So I think you're going to see a similar situation, that Santana and he will always be in the lineup to hit the long ball, but they're going to trade off at first base. So you're not going to get rid of Santana in that regard. As far as Napoli is concerned, still hasn't signed with anybody. He's kind of an imposing guy. His appearance is imposing. What I got out of it, because I questioned some more people about that, because I hate to just make a blanket statement. It's like, why would he be intimidating people? And I think what I got out of it from a number of people that I spoke to was that he's not the ultimate chummy, let's be with the stars kind of guy. If you're the better players and you have a better players clique, Knapp isn't going to be part of that. He's kind of a regular guy in that regard. So the fact that he and Ramirez even though Ramirez didn't hardly speak English, were always playing cards in the clubhouse and all that. And the fact that Ramirez was not a star by any stretch of the imagination going into last year, I think that he treats people as equals for good and for bad, and that bothered some people who maybe wanted different treatment because maybe they were of a different hierarchy. So that's what I think that was all about. What do you think about Edwin Encarnacion, Amsterdam?
Upgrade. You know, even despite the Hispanic birth certificate, you know, it's always a plus or minus 6.
That's not racist or anything.
Well,
Jesus.
I live in South Florida. I'm used to.
I live in Mexico.
Build that wall. Build. God Almighty.
I voted the same as you, Moo. No wall.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't even like John Wall, point guard for the Wizards. So I don't like any walls.
I think an upgrade.
Yesterday, I have to tell you, there was a really bad storm here the last couple of days, and so everything's flooding out. And I guess people go through the river to try and cross the border here when it storms and everything's flooded. They caught people trying to cross the Tijuana River, like nearly dying just to get through in a storm. And when they caught them, they turned around and went back home. Isn't that insane?
So
there's no wall that's going to stop that. Isn't that crazy?
They'll be making slacks for Trump in a week.
It's crazy.
Well, you know,
Encarnacion has a parrot too. I mean, come on, that's pretty sweet.
I mean, Encarnacion to me, you know, I mean, look, Napoli overachieved for us. I mean, I said it last year. I'll say it again. Napoli was a guy who you took a 1-year flyer on and you won the lottery. When a guy hits 34 home runs or 35 home runs or whatever he hit, and he had not hit that many before, and he had that one point in the year where he was hitting a ton of them, and then it just stopped, okay? But you can't ask it to be consistent. If he hits 35 home runs for you, he had a banner year, you know? Yeah. I mean, that's as good as it was going to possibly get under any circumstance. And he remained healthy, which had been a problem for him. And obviously other teams are not sold on him because they haven't given him a contract at this point. It's going to be a 2-year deal if he does sign somewhere, but it's not going to be for the money, the $15 million a year that he thought he was going to get. And that in past seasons that he would have gotten, we talked about during the season, the ball was definitely juiced this year. Everybody was the beneficiary. I mean, if you look at Encarnacion's 42 and you say he's averaged 30 home runs or more in the past 5 years, that number 42 represents approximately a 20% increase in the number of home runs that he would hit.
I think he averaged 39, didn't he? Yeah,
I guess maybe that's what it is. But I mean, everybody had a banner year last year when it came to power. Every player I can think of, Napoli being a prime example, it would have been a big mistake to sign him to 2 years, $30 million, because the odds of him having back-to-back seasons like that were completely negligible, and the lights went out in the playoffs, which true is true.
That's what I was going to say. The last 2 dead months of, the last 15 games of the regular season and completely dead throughout the playoffs. That's a killer.
Yeah, I mean, and we needed it in so many ways. And the thing is with all of them, whether it's Knapp's 194 strikeouts, and I think Encarnacion had 180 or 190 strikeouts. I mean, these people strike out a lot. I mean, all power hitters strike out a lot. Babe Ruth struck out a lot. I mean, people don't remember, although they talk about how big his swings and misses and how grand they were. The fact of the matter is he became iconic. But I mean, he probably stranded more runners in scoring position than anyone in his generation because he struck out so much. Encarnacion is going to strike out too. The thing is that at 33, going on 34, he has 5 years in a row of solid performance. This is not Nick Swisher. This is not a situation where we were watching his numbers decline and we gave him $56 million. We're giving the guy $60 million for 3 years with a 4th year possibility and a $5 million buyout on this, and as some form of insurance if he gets old quick. But at least his previous 5 years would warrant giving him that deal. If you looked at Napoli's previous 5 years, it would not look that way. So it is an upgrade, and it's something the Indians need, because if you have a guy who you can count on hitting 30 home runs, and I don't know if Mickey's kid's going to get back next year. Brantley, there's too much quiet surrounding Brantley. I not hearing nothing. And we're starting to get to the turn of the year, and we get to the turn of the year, then we start thinking about spring training. We start thinking of Goodyear, not the tires, the Arizona. And we start looking at, who's going to be ready and, what young guys we're looking at. And I'm still not hearing nothing about Brantley. So it's even more important that we got Encarnacion, because we need to have another guy who can have a Napoli type year. But I got to be honest with you, it's still hard for me to believe that we're going to get anywhere near the performance out of Ramirez that we got last year, anywhere near the performance out of Chisenhall in the platoon that we got last year.
I think Ramirez will hold up. I think Chisenhall, I agree with you. Chiz is too streaky. He's too streaky and doesn't have much power. I think Ramirez just get better. I have more faith in him. Naquin, he's another who knows. Hopefully we'll have somebody.
Talk about lights going out. Naquin, the wheels came off.
Him and Napoli were 2 dead spots in the playoffs that just killed us for bad. They were they were terrible.
Not just the playoffs, Amsterdam. Naquin's numbers. Yeah. I mean, what it looked like to me is he's a young guy with minor league experience, and his body stopped playing when the minor league season ended.
Yeah.
And, this extended play season, he's got to work on his strength, because he, all that power, the bat speed that he showed, his bat slowed down appreciably at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And they were blowing high fastballs by him that he couldn't even foul off.
All day.
And he was just behind, lagging. His bat just looked like it weighed a ton.
Yeah, it did.
So, and that's center field. So with the money they gave Encarnacion, it's not likely we're going to bring Rajai Davis back. I don't know what's going to happen. Brantley.
I don't think Zimmer's ready. Do you?
No, none of our minor league fellas are ready.
Zimmer's real questionable on his defense.
Yeah, I know that there was talk about Austin Jackson. I don't know, though. After this signing, I can't see the Indians going out and spending more money. So center field is going to be a problem. Brantley could be a partial answer to this. If he's able to play left field, you might be able to move some pieces around. But I don't feel confident with Naquin at this point, because he just, he looked good for that period of time. And then the question's going to come, was he just tired, or did they figure him out at the big league level? Is he going to be a 220 hitter, because they know where to pitch him, where he's vulnerable.
Yep.
So don't know that, but I'm happy we got Encarnacion for a number of reasons. One is that, if you were to say, who out there do we need that has a big stick, that would have been one of the three names that you'd have mentioned. And in the same conversation, you would have added, but we're not going to get any of those three guys because it's the fucking Dolans. Okay. That would be what you'd hear from most fans. We did get one of the three, and it gives me the feeling that at least we're doing something to improve offensively and to, to have a run producer out there who puts up Albert Bell-like numbers, that not batting average wise, but home runs and runs batted in, averaging, like she said, 39 and 102, I think, runs batted in over that span, maybe even more runs batted in. A run producer, you can't, a guy who hits home runs with men on base, not just solo shots. So I'm thrilled that we did that. Also, if you look at the Indians and how they're constructed, if their starting pitching comes back healthy, and we have no reason to assume that it wouldn't, that Santana will be back, and that we will have healthy arms again next year. We're built as a pitching first team, and anytime you can add a guy who's a 35 home run a year or more player to that mix, every run you score is that much more valuable when you have that kind of starting pitching. And we got the best relief pitcher in the game, I think. I mean, a guy who's just a knock him out, and anytime you put him in the game, the shutdown guy. And Cody Allen did not do badly. I mean, down the stretch, man, Cody Allen was not as erratic as he had been in the past. He kind of got his shit together. And now the question is, Shaw started showing me some wrinkles at the end of the year, and I'm really curious about the number of innings that he's thrown, the number of appearances really that he's made, and who's ready to pick up the reins as a potential seventh inning guy if we have the eighth and the ninth covered. That Brian Shaw, to me, might be getting a little long on the tooth, but be that as it may, our pitching is good. Anything we can do to add to hitting, I think the catcher position, the Yan Gomes thing is a mystery to me. That one year he had may have been just an absolute aberration. It may have been something that just came out of nowhere and we'll never see again. But he can't be as bad as he was. And Perez, for all the talk, I don't think that I do believe he's like a 210, 220 hitter, but I don't believe he's a 140 hitter. I don't know. I mean, he grew into the
Perez is settling into the catching position. He's starting to settle his pitchers. He's calling a great game.
I agree.
I really see him settled in a lot more than he was, when he was just being used here and there every couple of weeks.
He's made strides. There's no question. He's still an offensive liability. And the thing with Yan Gomes is that before all of the injuries beset him and before he became bedeviled last year with the worst string of luck that you could imagine, he had one of the livest bats on the team, and he has tremendous power. He's a guy who can hit 20 to 25 home runs, but he also, I mean, he's not the kind of guy who hits the ball like Napoli so high in the air. When he contacts the ball, he can hit it in the gap, and off his bat, it's live and it's hard, and a lot of gaps are hit because the ball jumps off his bat. Boy, if you got him, I mean, honestly, he's as good as Lucroy. If you want to look at it that way, when he's at his best, and that's why the whole Lucroy thing didn't really matter. I think the Indians made a play for him and it didn't pan out, but to me, Lucroy's numbers really weren't vastly superior to what Yan Gomes can put up if Yan Gomes is healthy and if he can wipe the slate clean from last year. So if he can hit even like 15 to 20 home runs in the season for us, and we get Encarnacion, we've plussed up in our power department over last year, and that's important. If Brantley plays, Brantley will get you 15 to 20 home runs. He will. His bat is that kind of a bat that also is a live bat, assuming he comes back that way.
Hit your 55 doubles.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who will hit gaps. He's that kind of guy. And same with Ramirez. He'll hit a lot of gaps. He's not going to hit that many home runs, but he's going to hit a lot of extra base hits, a lot of gappers.
Brantley's the kind of hitter that you want because he's technically sound and he can
hit
the ball exactly where he wants it when he needs it.
And where it's pitched.
Yeah,
he goes with the pitch. He doesn't try to hit a home run when he's up there. Right. Any home runs that Brantley hits are a direct result of mistakes that pitchers make, the balls that are down and in that he can drive and pull. You never see him hit an opposite field home run. And what he hits down and in, if you go inside and try to back him off the plate, he gets his hands through the zone quickly and he can get the ball out of right field. And that breeze, that jet stream that goes out to right field so frequently during the summer in Progressive Field really plays to that. And I'll say this about Gomes. Gomes has tremendous opposite field power. I mean, he'll hit home runs to right center field. I mean, just ball just, and it just goes out to right center field. If you get those guys back, you might have enough offense to maybe not to replicate the amount of scoring you did last year, which was high by Indian standards, but you have a chance to do that. And let's be honest, the division we're in is, you got the old Tigers, and then you got the White Sox who got rid of Sale and they're rebuilding, and the Royals who are rebuilding. So there's no reason the Indians can't come out of their division. There's no reason. It's just a matter of staying healthy and not throwing too many innings. And that's a big concern. I mean, especially for Salazar, big concern. Whether his arm can hold up for an entire season, because every year he's pitched with the Indians and he's been on pitch watch, they've had to sit him for a couple of games because his arm tires.
He'll ever be the same. I don't think he'll ever be efficient again, to be honest with you. I think he lost whatever he had, and I think that his mindset is gone. It's killed, kind of like Chisenhall. It's just something in him. It's just gone. I don't think you'll ever see Salazar at the level that you saw him before. I think mentally he's not all there anymore, whether it's a confidence issue or there's other things going on in his life, which I hear these excuses all the time from beat reporters who are close to the players. Well, you can't be mad at Brian Shaw. He's going through a really rough time. Well, you know what? I can't just let a patient die and blame it on a bad day at home. So I don't want to hear it about a millionaire pitcher, But I think there's something up with Salazar that you'll never see him at the caliber that he was before. And Carrasco, as long as they don't bring him back too soon and hurt him in the cold weather like they did with Brantley, I think he'll be slated to come back stronger than before for sure.
No, we hope. But, looking at the Indians, I mean, it could be something very interesting when you have the platoons that we have available in right field. And if Naquin, and the concern is his bat, whether he can play a full season and whether he's going to come back. But, a lot will be told in spring training about this kid, whether he worked in the offseason to get stronger, because he's got to be ready to play more games because his body just didn't look strong at the end of the season. But you could have a hell of a lineup when you start, Ramirez has just been, what a find. And played a wonderful third base. Something that I never thought that I would see. A natural second baseman. I figured his arm wasn't good enough.
They moved him all over the place last year, and the kid can play. He learns quickly.
Got an attitude. Skills. He's the one guy who could have been part of the Kenny Lofton Indians. That guy,
an all-star.
What a strut on him. I mean, he just oozes attitude, and
he's smart on the base pass. He knows the game well.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a good find.
And he makes contact. He hits the ball where it's pitched, and he gets on base. And he's an aggressive hitter. He's but you got him at third. You've got the best young shortstop in the game. I mean, I don't know what Lindor can't do. You're looking at you got a platoon at first base, which is and Kipnis had a nice comeback year last year.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can put together 2 good years back to back. But I mean, that infield, and you put a healthy Yan Gomes behind the plate and the backup, Roberto Perez, and that's a hell of an infield.
Yeah.
That's a hell of an infield. And if Brantley comes back, you got him, you got Chiz, and who's going to be your right-handed right fielder? Who's coming back for that duty? Why am I blanking on our right fielder?
The
Geyer
from
Geyer,
Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I mean, and Geyer hit left-handers.
Plays left and right.
Yeah, that guy, seriously, I don't know.
Pickup.
Yeah, he can't play right field very well, but he hits left-handers.
No, he's a left fielder.
Yeah, he hits left-handers big time. He's the prototypical platoon guy. Then it's the big black hole in center field. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys something. I'm going to name two different players. Grayson Allen plays basketball for Duke University. And Joe Mixon, the woman hitter. You saw the video of Mixon hitting them.
Made me sick.
There's two things that I want to know about Mixon. First of all, why do these women hit men? Why do you do that? I mean, and I'm not justifying what he did, because what I'm going to say next, obviously, is going to be harsh. But why would you slap him? What do you think? If you know him at all, what do you think he's going to do? And I've never understood. Now, I mean, it's one thing if a woman spits at a man, that's bad enough. But when you actually whack him and slap him across the face, that culture, instinctive, boom, I mean, he wound up and just, totally unacceptable. And no apology is ever going to change the image. It's just like the Ray Rice thing. Nothing can ever, him dragging out his girlfriend by her feet out of an elevator, nothing will ever eliminate and erase that image in my mind. And I don't care how well he plays. I don't care who he is, where he went to school. I don't give a fuck about him. I mean, to me, Joe Mixon is a guy who should be behind bars. It's a lot like if you find out that somebody beat a dog, all right? And or somebody got a dog and fought the dog as part of dog fighting. And you say to yourself, Michael Vick, a good example. I never cared about Michael Vick after that whole thing. To me, he's not a worthwhile person to invest any interest in. He did his time. At least Michael Vick went to jail and did his time. But I never could get that image out of my head that somebody who was that callous, and I can't get it out of my mind with Ray Rice or Joe Mixon. I keep seeing that video in my mind. I don't think I have ever seen a woman hit that hard in my life. Honestly.
Never. He wasn't drunk. Ray was out of control too. This dude hit her harder than Ray hit his now wife. He could have broken his hand. He hit
her that hard.
Oh yeah.
Could have killed her. Absolutely. Without a question, if that hits in the right spot, she's dead. Mm-hmm. She'll have intracranial bleeding and she'll die. I just can't. I'm getting sick thinking about that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I hope to God I never see anything like that again. It was bad enough seeing.
Yeah, thanks, Bob Stoops.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I thought I'd seen everything when I saw the Carolina Panthers security guard masturbating in front of the cheerleaders. I thought
that was the Chargers security guard. That was here in San Diego.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a Qualcomm guy? Sorry. Go Chargers.
That was Captain Pocketpool.
Oh, my God. You look at something like that, and after you laugh your ass off.
Twice. I guess he did it again in the second half, and the fans shut him down. They were calling him out and booing him and yelling at him, and they shut him down.
He has to be mentally ill, don't you think? It's not like he's standing there and masturbating in front of 50,000 fans. I don't think that, but still, I hope
he winds up in jail too.
Yeah, well, jurisdiction has to do something. There are kids watching that game. There are minors. That is lewd and lascivious public behavior. It's no different than if you're pissing on a sidewalk in front of it, or if you whip your dick out in public and start doing that. Same thing. He gets fired, yeah, but I think the police have to get involved. They gotta. Anybody to me who beats a dog would kill a dog. Okay, anyone who'd fight a dog would kill a dog. All right, would kill a house pet. And I have to believe that anybody who'd stand there and masturbate in public while lasciviously staring at women is a sexual predator. And it will go on his record, I hope, that he is a sexual predator, that he will go on the list, because it's like, my God, you can't do things like that. Joe Mixon, to me, belongs in jail. I don't care if somebody's smaller, weaker than you, hits you like that. It's not a smart thing for the young lady to do, but that's not the answer. That's not the response. And it isn't whether he should play football or not. He shouldn't even be walking the streets. I mean, this to me is,
And the fact that it's been swept under the rug for 2 years, we didn't even know about it. And that they let him come back completely without any sort of indication that this happened. I mean, thinking that releasing the video of your own accord is somehow makes you a
exonerated.
Better person. Yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? It blows my mind. I understand that, young girls get drunk and they get out of control. I've seen it happen. I mean, I watched it happen in my 20s. You say the wrong thing to a girl, she's going to swing her arms. But any kind of man who's a real man knows that you just don't fucking touch a woman, especially in anger, ever. You just don't. And unless you were raised without any conscientious morals whatsoever, if you have no conscience in your brain to absolutely just walk up to somebody and knock her out. I mean, her face was just bashed in, and when she tried to get up and she fell down again, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this poor girl. There's no reason that he shouldn't be in jail. He should not be allowed to be drafted. If they're gonna cry domestic violence crap in the NFL and say that they decry domestic violence, there's no way you can allow this guy to even be drafted into the league. You can't allow it. Otherwise, you're saying that it's okay.
With you.
Well, and Tony is in our chat room now.
Hi, Tony.
It's hard for me to, at any rate,
And Grayson Allen is the kind of guy that shoots up a school when he doesn't get his way. He's a spoiled little bitch who cried like a little bitch on the sidelines because he got kicked out of a game for doing something intentionally and bitch-like. And then he cried about it. He's the kind of guy that, gets looked at sideways and comes back with a gun and tells you that, he should be let out.
He's a spoiled little country
because daddy let him, daddy's got money or whatever. Exactly. I can't stand people like that. He's like Johnny Manziel.
Tony's bringing up DeAndre Liggins, who also had a domestic dispute. And I will compare them because he is comparing them. Liggins' ex-girlfriend, Jasmine Horton, told OKC police that he kicked in the bedroom door, pushed her down, dropped a fan on her, stomped on her, and dropped an Xbox on her head, all in the presence of their 2-year-old. She had bruises on her chest and scratches on her back and injuries to her arm and fingers. All right? That is what happened there. Do I think DeAndre Liggins should be in jail? I think that there has to be an investigation where there is no video proof of what somebody's saying. There has to be an investigation, and there has to be a determination based on the extent of the injuries and what the circumstances were in all of this. Yeah, I believe that if he's found guilty of beating somebody, he's got to go to jail. I don't think that there's you beat a woman until she's bruised. I say you go to jail. But I'm not going to sit here and say that there was a video of DeAndre Liggins doing it. I mean, this leaves nothing to the imagination.
Right.
Okay. When you have an actual video like the Ray Rice video, you can't even say he said, she said. It's there.
This is also the country that exonerated a cop who is shown on video shooting a man running away from him in the back 7 times and still got off, with murder. So, I mean,
he was worried about his life.
Yeah. I mean,
the guy's 40 yards away.
The justice system is a fucking joke.
I don't believe that using your fists and beating anybody. In this case, DeAndre Liggins allegedly dropped a fan on somebody and dropped an Xbox on somebody. That's what and it is not an acceptable thing. He did not punch her in her face as hard as he could. The injuries sustained in the two cases are radically different, and the circumstances are obviously different. I don't think that they would be handled with the same kind of jail sentence, but I do think that anybody who commits domestic violence needs to be dealt with from a legal perspective. And I believe that it should have prevented him from playing for Oklahoma City for certain. Do I think that it should have stopped him 3 years later from being a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers? No, probably not. Probably not. I think that, again, if you say that somebody commits a situation like this where a heated argument happens where two people are like oil and water, and it happens all the time, you have to say to yourself, does that mean that person can't earn a living after that? And I'd say that 3 years have gone by, and I'd say that he didn't get the justice that he deserved at the time. And 3 years later, I'm not going to sit there and say that he's a changed man or not a changed man. I can't say that. I say that if he does anything at this point, yeah, fuck him. I mean, now, I mean, it's out there. But Mixon, oh my God, it's a, and while we're talking about that, talking about, Adrian Peterson, while we're talking about Tony, I mean, Adrian Peterson to me should not be playing in the National Football League. When you beat a child in the genitals with a wooden switch until they're bruised, I'm sorry. No, I mean, I don't care if you think what your dad's definition of punishment was. That's just, that's so beyond the pale. It's just
that doesn't even fly in cheap German porn.
Right. I mean, yeah, GGG. Yeah. Even the German Goo girls don't do that.
What?
Oh, believe me, Amsterdam realizes what I'm talking about, and just look it up. Michelle,
I don't want to.
GGG, triple X porn, GGG, and you'll get it. It is the preeminent.
It's like Googling what's smegma.
Yeah, it's like the functional German bukkake site. So that's about all we'll go with that. Now, Grayson Allen is a player with Duke University who is suspended by Mike Krzyzewski because he keeps tripping people. I've never heard of anything like this before, but 3 times now, including this last game against Elon College, which Duke was actually having trouble in that game against little Elon College, he trips people. Guys are running and he sticks his feet out and he intentionally, now none of the guys have gotten injured, but they kept telling him to stop doing it. And he, when they took him out of the game and he had this conniption fit. I mean, did you see the video of that? He looked like a fucking diseased child, like those kids.
Yeah, mentally unstable.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, it's like, wow. You got to get a handle on this kind of shit. And I feel the same way about Draymond Green, kicking people in the nuts, kicking people in the head, that leg flail he does. I mean, I think the responsibility of the league, I mean, you can make arguments that the NFL didn't pay people health insurance and, there was no cradle to grave coverage. You could make arguments based on a business model, whether that would have been practical or not. But when a player like Burfict of the Bengals is trying to injure people, or Jerome Harrison for the Steelers was trying to injure people.
Richard Sherman's even on that level now at this point.
Who is?
Richard Sherman. Oh,
yeah. I mean, when you get to a point where there's so much video evidence of what you're doing, the league has a responsibility to try to keep the game safe, even if it's not a safe game. You've got to police people who are instigators and people, and this has gone on in the league, it was like, who is the guy who incognito, a guy with obviously with a anger management problem who got bounced. Now he's back in the league again. When you get people who are obviously trying to hurt people, I think it's up to the league to stop it. I applaud Krzyzewski suspending the kid indefinitely, because you're trying to salvage this kid's career at this point. He's supposed to be a talented basketball player, but he's obviously got some emotional problems. And you try to stop it now before it goes further. Maybe if somebody had stopped Johnny Manziel back when, maybe there would have been some straight path he could have gone down. But Grayson Allen is just another example of a player who should not be playing. It's hard enough to be playing college basketball and not be compensated for playing when the university is making millions of dollars, the coaches are making millions of dollars, and you have to tolerate being tripped and possibly injured by some lunatic player who's like a rogue player going off every time a game gets close. It's bizarre. I had the same thing with Ricky Mahorn, hitting people, low blowing people. And it was one thing watching Lambeer get in people's heads, and he was a hateful guy, but Mahorn was a thug.
He'd do nut shots at you. Yeah,
he was a thug. Didn't even belong in the league. And to me, Draymond Green is real close to that. Real close to that. I would be this close to throwing him out of the league. All this kicking and flailing.
There's no natural motion in how he's kicking his legs out at people. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, nobody goes down and just flails their right leg up at people. He's mastered the move. It's kind of like a martial arts move. I mean, it's really peculiar. But it's after 7, and I don't care about the games this week. I really don't. I don't care. All I'm going to tell you is that the headline says, and I'm so sick of this headline that I could scream, no, it's not Terry Pluto saying, well, one of these weeks are going to win. It's not that. Browns to face Chargers, big pass rush, an experienced quarterback. Everybody has a big pass rush against the Browns. No, the Browns aren't going to come close to this game, and it's not going to be cold enough to stop Phillip Rivers. It's going to be in the 40s. So
Joey Bosa is going to kill all of our quarterbacks.
Oh, my God. And I hope they get RG3 so I never have to see him again. Never again. Actually, I hope they overrun RG3 on the sideline and hit Hugh Jackson. We never see him again. I mean, enough.
The Chargers will win this game because the only time they ever lose is toward the end when Phillip Rivers ends up throwing interceptions to
not going to be close.
When it's super close, and the defense doesn't even have the skills or the eyeballs to turn around and look at any kind of ball. So the Chargers are going to look like a Super Bowl caliber team against the Browns, and there's no chance in hell that they go full Cleveland Browns and actually win a game because there's no way. I mean, the Chargers are going to finally get a break this week and play an easy game and look the way that they should look every week. They're going to look amazing against the Browns. I'm going to enjoy every second of it because I get to see Phillip Rivers.
31-13. 31-13. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be another disaster. Another fucking disaster, and Hugh Jackson is going to start crying again. Fuck it. I'm done with it. I don't care. So I'm done. I'm done today. I got to eat my dinner. But Michelle,
enjoy your lamb.
Oh, thank you. And Michelle, thanks for making it. Yeah, you're a real trooper. That's tough.
Oh, I had fun.
Yeah, and I'll tell you. Say what?
Hope she feels better, and happy holidays. Happy early Chanukah to you.
Chanukah.
Do you celebrate Hanukkah? You don't celebrate anything.
No, Adam Sandler does. I don't know. No, I don't believe that malarkey any more than I do the Christ stuff. So, what can I tell you? Moses, Jesus, burning bushes, Old Testament, New Testament.
Are you going to do a Brown show on Saturday? You may as well. It's Saturday. Why not?
I don't care about the Browns. The Browns are going to get hammered. They're going to get hammered mercilessly. I don't want. What time is the game on, by the way?
1:00.
It's
so you
10
can enjoy that
so
move instead of playing golf behind the Feldmans and Nussbaums holding up play.
Oh my God, it's hot out here. Get the umbrella. Get the umbrella out. It's hot. It's Florida. Does anybody have some fresh squeezed orange juice? I need some.
I miss David Blatt. Kyrie Irving.
I can see David Blatt going to Poland to coach, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing that he would say, he walks into the press conference, goes, "Does anybody know where to get a nice piece of fish?" And he would lose everybody at that point. I know you people are Polish. You're not the smartest people. You're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. So in all of my press conferences, I will answer questions twice so you'll get the answer, and I'll speak very slowly. It's like, all right, let's get out of here. Amsterdam, thanks for helping out.
Thanks, guys.
Feel better, Michelle.
Thank you. You guys have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Browns on tomorrow. Cavaliers on tonight at 7:30 against the New Jersey Nets. That'll with the Brooklyn Nets. Listen to me. I'm an old-timer. Brooklyn Nets. I can't. Nah. New Jersey Nets. Although it once meant something to be the secondary team in New York, now they have two secondary teams and a coach with an old white posse. Our general manager with an old white posse. Thanks for tuning in. Back again on Monday. Have a very pleasant Christmas holiday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.